All right, so we have started recording again. This is a little thing I'd like to try to do after most of my drafts and whatever other tournaments I end up doing. But I want to, do a little bit of a wrap-up analysis, some things that really stuck out. So Whit and I took a second to try to figure out, some things, some lessons learned. And so we just want to talk about a couple of them. The reason I like doing this, and I was talking with another friend about it who suggested it. You watch a lot of drafts that are done, and you sort of zone in and out, and you might pick up on a couple of things, might learn something, but sometimes it's a little bit in one ear and out the other. You're just watching somebody play, and everything just sort of happens. So I'd like to, as the person playing, you sort of feel the impact of what's going on, and it feels really brutal when they play that fortify that takes you out of the game. So just to I think it's valuable to sort of share the feelings we come away with. And so I wanted to start with sort of the decision making during that last game. I had decided, and I didn't really enunciate this, but I kind of decided that I wanted to race him there, not play around too many removal spells or that pump spell that was lethal, because his deck's power level just was very high, and I kind of felt like the longer the game went, the more noose constrictors, powerful removal spells, other things he would draw that sort of put us out of the game, or other ways to get that lifelinker really online would put the game pretty far out of reach. So I was trying to wrap the game up as quickly as possible. That gave him an opening to just cast that pump spell, deal that 4 damage straight to us, and kill us. It might have been the wrong call, might have been the right call. I'm not totally sure, but that was sort of my thinking there. What do you think, Whit?
It's sort of scary just because, like, I agree with you, and at the time it made a lot of sense. But with like him having life linkers, certainly makes racing a lot harder. I mean,
Right.
that seems pretty obvious, but it's something that we're scared of, and we thought we had a way to deal with it. But now that we look back on it, he has 2 other life linkers.
Mm-hmm.
He also did draw, like, he didn't have a lot of cards in hand the whole game necessarily, so we could have taken a different line. Our deck certainly is angled towards that. Like, you
Right.
can't fault us for being aggressive with this very tempo-y based, like, flyers deck.
Well, and I noticed you were a little surprised when I attacked for 5 that turn, and I don't know if you came around and thought, okay, yeah, that does make sense, or if you really thought I should have played a little bit slower.
I think your justification is correct. I think because, yeah, it's just, we also, part of it is our inexperience with the format, right? Like, what other things could he have? Like, we knew about Fortify, but we didn't know about his, of course.
Right,
So
but we do know that there's a million green-white cards that give a guy +2 power. So
right. You repeatedly brought up the +2/+2, which was an easy one for him to have that would also kill us there.
right,
We might have rushed into the situation where, well, we can't play around removal spells, but really we put ourselves in that situation anyways.
right, where we put ourselves in a situation where really if he had anything that immediately affected the game state, we weren't going to beat it, and that maybe we could have avoided that.
Right. I absolutely think that's true. Also because we kept harping about, oh yeah, he has a billion tricks, or he can have a billion tricks,
Yeah.
and we acknowledge it and refuse to do anything about it.
Well, at some point you just can't really play around it because it's gonna get you.
Right.
But maybe we could have. I'll probably go back and just for my own edification see if there are different lines that would have worked out better.
Honestly, I think the point of these is that I have already learned quite a bit about those cards, and then which ones I'm willing to lose to or play around. Like, I don't think he ever had tenacity, but we could never beat that card because that card is
Yes,
incredible.
well,
But like, now, like, we will know those things, and I think we will be more cautious about them. You called shot at the spider twice, and I think we played around that quite well. We just refused to play around anything else, or like put ourselves in a position to not play around those other things.
yeah, and so maybe just think harder about more cards he could have. Much of his deck played at instant speed, and that made it a little tough. So another thing that I wanted to mention is just how bad those equipments were in our deck. It seems like we had a decent home for them with our aggression, our number of flyers, just our number of creatures, and in the mid game be able to trade them up a lot harder. But really, those equipments just ended up being super mana intensive stumbling blocks that maybe I was not thinking about properly. You think about the great scenario of giving a Tattered Haunter +3/+1 and swinging for it, but you don't think about the scenario where, you've got 5 lands in play. If you wanted to invest a bunch of time into the Cleaver, you could, but you can't afford to do that. You agree with me there, Whit?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the equipment really ever did anything. I think the
Hmm.
best case scenario is with that one, the Wharf Infiltrator, where we can discard it and get it back, but that's still not
Right, but then
that
we have
much
an equipment
value.
in play or in our hand that we just still can't spend the mana to play and equip. So
Right, and we used all of our mana every turn. It's not like we were either off by one mana because it was just too the equipment aren't cheap enough for us to
yeah,
leverage them.
yeah, and it's definitely not cheap enough that you get to a point where you can equip it to a guy, attack, equip it to another guy, block, and that's where equipment is really good. That's where you know, like the classic good limited equipment Volshock Morningstar, which is 2 mana to equip +2/+2.
Yeah,
Like
I was
that's
thinking even like Bone Splitter or Trusty Machete would be incredible in this deck, and I think that's what we were skewed towards being old school Magic players.
yeah, and the equipment, you know, except for something like the sensor from Shadows, which has an equip cost of 2 and gives +2/+1 to humans. Like that's a really good card because the equip cost is 2, and that just makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it makes me wonder about if that Wharf Infiltrator play was correct then, because I know the value was very high. But
Hmm.
I mean, would that game have been different if we suppose we are terrified of the sacrifice and attacking creature effect, and if we
Yeah,
just don't do it there, do we get any more value that game?
yeah, that's certainly possible. Um, would have been tough to play around that game just with how it played out. I think, uh, you know, we probably would have ended up losing the Wharf Infiltrator to sacrifice an attacking creature like before we would draw a card off of it. So I don't know. Um, and one last thing that we were thinking of, because that last game is fresh in our mind, was counting on the Sigardian Priest to be our removal spell for the 4/4 Lifelinker, and that that rises at 1 really messed up the game after we allowed it to flip. Just, you know, constrained our decisions a lot, and when he was able to just remove the Priest for a turn, then that, you know, gave him a big attack, gained him 1,000,000 life, and really, you know, the game was still sort of in reach, but we were not able to get there because of that huge life swing.
Yeah, to me, he just took the tempo back, right? Like
Mhm.
we were ahead on tempo, but only by a little bit, and then him, like both the life swing and then also the ability to do that, and also like deal more damage because of the enchantment that he used. I mean, if we didn't have a response for it, we were just dead on the spot.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, some of that comes down to just how powerful that aura is that removes one of your creatures and turns one of their creatures into a monster. And then even being able to answer it, we weren't able to answer it in the way that that card is weak to. You know, just using our removal spell back. If we had a removal spell to kill the creature, that would be one thing. But we weren't able to take advantage of the situation, and that card really just ran over us there, even though we were able to deal with it the next turn.
Right, it's interesting too. So we got to tap that turn too, but then it was just a huge tempo swing in his favor that we were just behind by a turn, and then he
Yep.
just did something like 11 damage in that next turn.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, those are really the points that stuck out in my head. Hopefully, this is a helpful sort of follow up to the draft, give you a little bit of like insight into what's going on, what we're thinking about while playing it, and you know, I don't know. I think it's good to do something a little bit different. Like the draft video format has gotten a little bit stagnant. I mean, not that it's bad to just post a draft video, but there's a lot out there, and I'm hoping that this could be a little bit more helpful. So thanks again, Whit, for joining me. And we'll definitely do this again sometime.
Yeah,
Thanks
this
a
was
lot for
fun. I
watching.
can't wait.
Awesome, awesome.